Hey guys, Dave again. Welcome back to the channel. So in this one, I thought we would talk about why there's not a gun shortage. And I can already hear the angry clicking and everything else going on. Trust me, we have some data. We'll dig into how impressive the gun industry has been through this whole thing and why there are more guns than you think. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's dig into why I say it's not a gun shortage, it's a demand problem. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. And if you come to this channel on the regular, you know I'm about to hit you with some data. So let's dig into the best way we have to track the number of gun sales that occur every month. So if we take and we look, the system that the FBI uses to do background checks is the NICS, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. So the FBI puts out data on this every month. The problem and the reason we can't take just a holistic data of what the FBI puts out is this system also handles concealed carry permits, any sort of other permit associated with guns that require background check. Basically, everything goes through this. But we can glean a lot of information from what the FBI puts out before we go ahead and whittle it down. So if we take and we look and we come over here to the information that the FBI puts out. So basically, this is a breakdown, and I just want to show it to you. I have a better chart that we're going to go ahead and reference, but I want to show you guys that you can get this data too if you go to the FBI website, and it'll actually give it to you by day of the year. So the FBI runs this service 17 hours a day, 365 days a year, barring holidays. So this thing's around all the time, and you can see this breakdown. Anything where you see a zero, it's just a day of the month that doesn't exist. It's not a problem with the data. So the piece we'll look at, and I have a PDF form of this same data. It's just broken out by month, and it runs back a little bit further all the way to 1988. Let me get myself out of the way here. So if we take and we look, 2020 was off the charts for background checks and for permitting. I mean, the likes of which we've never seen. What have we seen here? About 8 months where we broke, 8 months where we broke 3 million plus background checks. And if we take and we look in 2021, every month so far has broken 3 million background checks, with 50% of that going over 4 million. The only other time short of 2020 and 2021 where we saw 3 million plus checks or permitting was in December of 2015. So as you can see, I mean, just steamrolling, just an insane amount of background checks going on. So, and like I've highlighted, this data includes permitting. So that doesn't really tell us how many gun sales there are, and it doesn't really back up my claim. I get that. So there's an organization, it's the NSSF, which is the National Shooting Sports Foundation. So every month they put out data that separates what we just saw in the FBI from the number of permits. So basically they separate permits from background checks. If we go ahead and look at this chart, you can see sort of how that breaks out. You can see it here in this animated graph that I put together for you here. Basically, the green column is 2020. The brown column is 2021. Just thought visually it made it a little bit easier to look at so you can sort of see. This is the adjusted data. So this is actual data removing permits and revealing itself as actual background checks. So for those that don't like graphs like that, I find it maybe a little hard to read myself. Here's the data as actual numbers. Printed out January, February, March, and April. See the months down the middle, and then on each side, you can see the year. On the left is 2020. On the right is year to date, 2021. May's not out yet. So as you can see, we're already up over 2020. So far we've had 7,177,403 60 background checks for guns. It's just sanity. So if we figure that out, the difference between 2020 and 2021 so far is 658,111, or roughly a 10.1% increase over 2020, which was the biggest year ever. I feel like we need to give the gun industry kudos. They've stepped up and delivered in a massive way. To be able to turn around and rally and produce 10% more than you did last year. And let's assume last year that, there was extra supply in the mix there, especially early on. Like, just people sucked up everything that was sort of sitting in inventory and was around and was already there and planned. This year, 2021, we have to figure that they're now ramping up manufacturing and they're producing the actual items that we're seeing here. So this is them delivering this year, not relying on inventory or stock or whatnot. And to be able to do that in the supply chain logistics nightmare that we have right now, getting anything out of China on a boat is stacked up in LA. There are shipping boats just sitting in the water trying to get stuff off because it's just too much coming in too fast. Getting materials is just a nightmare. I can't thank these guys enough. So if you work in the gun industry, thank you. I think you guys are doing a great job. You're not getting enough credit. I hope this video gets you some credit out of that. If we look back at our PDF chart, for you guys who are like, we've seen this before, and these are 2 points that I want to make now. I'm pivoting, I'm switching gears here, and I apologize. So thank you, gun industry guys. Let's talk about another point that I hear all the time, and then we'll talk about a second point that I hear all the time. So for all you guys that are like, we saw this back when Obama became president, and I'm familiar, and I know all this stuff, and this isn't new, and yeah, whatever. So basically, Obama came in January of 2009, and he was president through 2016. The only month that you remotely had anything close to what we have now is that December of 2015 with your 3.3 million. But if you look from the turnover from George W. to Obama, we went from 1.5 months at the end there, right around the time of election, which would have been your panic time, of 1.5. It actually dropped in December. And then when we get to January of 2009, it dropped again. And then it just kind of held steady and leveled. And then it actually dropped in June and July. We're not seeing that this time around. And it's, I don't want to say double. It's like 2.8, almost 3 times the level that we saw when, Obama came in. You've not seen demand like we are seeing now. Like, to anecdotally say back then it was the same, just if we look at the background checks, it just wasn't this. This is a whole different animal. So understand that, and maybe again cut the gun industry some slack. We've never seen anything like this. Like, we've never seen this pivot and this just mass run that we are seeing now. The background checks alone tell us that. So cut these guys some slack. The other point that I want to make that I hear about all the time is, oh, why don't they just build another facility and make either more ammo or more guns? Man, that's not an easy process. And let me give you an example. So Kimber or not, I'm not personally a fan. Back in January of 2018, Kimber came out and announced that they were going to build a new they were having sales were gangbusters. They were doing great. They're going to build a new factory in Alabama. Okay, $38 million they're going to invest in Alabama to build this facility. Now, further down in the article, it says they expected to be operational early 2019. You guys want to go ahead and take a guess at when this thing actually got up and running? And now keep in mind, this is primo conditions, gun friendly, no supply chain issues, no building issues. Like, things are prime time, ready to go. If you're going to build, this was the time to build. Yeah. So we come over here and we look. They got in October of 2020. Less than 3 years after selecting a site. Less than 3 years, only 3 long years to get something built. I mean, it's not easy for these guys to build new facilities and roll all this stuff out. I mean, this took so long. They got shut down in New York because of the pandemic. They just got they just got up and running a couple of months ago in this facility, and they're still trying to hire people and still trying to move in, looking for a job. Maybe reach out to them if you believe in their product. So for everybody that talks about, I remember it when it was Obama and they should just build new facilities and that kind of stuff. Trying to put some data to some of this, these guys are producing more guns than they've ever produced. The ammo guys are trying as hard as they can. Let's cut them some slack. There is more supply than there's ever been. I know when you go to the gun shop, it is frustrating and it drives you nuts that there is nothing there, and nothing makes you angrier than when you want to buy something and you can't. But they are trying. I think they're doing a fantastic job. Let's cut them some slack. I appreciate them. I can't imagine the stress that you guys are having. Actually, I can. I own a restaurant, so I know what it's like to try to find help and get stuff done these days. But I appreciate you guys. I thank you guys. And for everybody watching, I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome, and I'll catch you guys in the next.